New riders aren't skipping Harley and Indian because they hate them. They're skipping them because a $5,000 mistake hurts less than a $25,000 mistake. That's the real problem. Harley and Indian are fighting over bigger engines, bigger baggers, premium cruisers, high dollar touring bikes. Meanwhile, younger riders are looking at the price and saying, I'm out. Not because they dislike the brands, not because they disrespect the history. Math just doesn't work anymore. The bike, insurance, gear, maintenance, the price of rent, your groceries, your cost of living. If Harley and Indian don't figure this out, man, that first bike comes from another brand, and the second bike might too. So the question is, are younger riders abandoning Harley and Indian, or did Harley and Indian make it too hard to get into? This isn't just a Harley problem, guys. This isn't just an Indian problem. Guys, this is an entry point problem. Both brands have strong identity. They have their loyal riders. They have great looking bikes. They have their history. They have that dream bike appeal. But, you know, dream bikes don't always create new riders. The first bikes do. And right now, a lot of younger riders are finding their first bike somewhere else. Let's be honest. A lot of Harley and Indian bikes are dream bikes now. They're beautiful bikes. They're powerful bikes. Or they're bikes with a presence. They're bikes that turn heads. But for a brand new rider, guys, 15,000 is a lot. 20,000 is a lot. Hell, 30 or 40,000 is not even an entry point anymore. I mean, now you're getting into a car, a truck. You know, that's a wall. New riders don't know yet. You know, will they love riding? You know, will I ride every weekend? Will I be comfortable in traffic? Will my family support it? Will I keep the bike long term? So when they see something smaller, lighter, cheaper, and less intimidating, you know, that starts making sense. It's not because it's cooler than Harley, not because it's cooler than Indian, but because the risk is lower. And for a new rider, guys, lower risk matters. You know, this is where some people are going to get mad. But the second you say smaller bikes, somebody always has to say, real riders don't need beginner bikes. Come on, guys. Everybody starts somewhere. Nobody comes out of that womb back in a road glide into a bike week. New riders need to weigh in. And, you know, if Harley and Indian don't give them one, Honda will, Kawasaki will, Yamaha will, Royal Enfield will, Triumph will, Suzuki will. The used market definitely will. From what I see, guys, the younger, newer riders are looking at bikes like the Honda Rebel 300, the Honda Rebel 500, the Kawasaki Eliminator, the Kawasaki Vulcan S, the Yamaha MT-03, the Yamaha R3, the Yamaha MT-07, the Royal Enfield Meteor, the Royal Enfield Hunter, the Royal Enfield Classic. You got the Royal Enfield 650 models. You got the Triumph Speed 400. You got the Triumph Scrambler 400X. You got the Suzuki SB 650. List goes on, you know. But anything that gets them into riding without bearing them into payments. You know, why do these bikes get attention? One, because they're cheaper. Two, because they're lighter. Three, because they're easier to insure. Four, they're easier to learn on. Five, they're less intimidating. And six, they're easy to resell if riding's not for them. Just because you think you would like to ride a motorcycle and have a good time, you won't really know until you get time on the saddle, and then you realize, well, maybe it's not for me. I don't really enjoy it. But you know, that's not a small thing, guys. That is the whole game for new beginners. And new riders are not just buying a motorcycle. They're buying the possibility that they may become a motorcycle person for life. You know, if that first step costs too much, a lot of people are never going to take it. They're never going to take that step. And this is where both Harley and Indian need to pay attention. Harley side. Harley used to have a clearer path then. The Sportster was that first handshake with the brand, you know. It was not always the biggest. It wasn't always the fastest. It wasn't always the most comfortable. But price-wise, it was attainable. A younger rider could buy one. They could customize it. They learned on it. They would ride it for a few years and move up later, maybe into like something like a Dyna or Softail, Road King, Street Glide. You know, whatever fits their life. That mattered. That first Harley gave people a reason to stay with Harley. And on Indian's side, Indian, you know, they have the Scout. The Scout is a good bike. A lot of people love it. The Scout 60 helps. But for a brand new rider, comparing the bike price, your insurance, the cost of gear, your cost of living, Indian can still feel like a big jump. So Harley needs to rebuild that affordable first step. Indian needs a clear beginner path that doesn't rely only on the Scout family. Different brands, same problem, guys. They both need a stronger on-ramp. The first bike matters more than people think. It's not just transportation, but it's where a rider, it's where they build their confidence, learns what they like, makes mistakes, they meet other riders, uh, they have formed opinions about brands. If I was a 19-year-old, or if a 19-year-old starts on a Honda Rebel, rides it for 2 years, moves to Yamaha or Kawasaki, then gets into adventure bikes or sport touring, Harley and Indian may never get a shot. It's not because that rider hated Harley or Indian. It's because another brand got there first. Harley and Indian are not just competing with each other anymore. Guys, they're competing with whoever gets that new rider on the first, on the road first. And once a rider builds that trust with another brand, getting them back is hard. This is where the dealership matters. A dealership can't just be about sign the paperwork, buy the bike, and leave. That doesn't build riders. It sells units. And if Harley and Indian want younger riders, then the dealership has to feel less like a luxury showroom and more like a doorway into motorcycling. That means having beginner rides, training support, rental programs, having demo days, having gear nights, giving maintenance classes, having used bike inspections, offering trade-up programs, community events, beginner-friendly group rides. A new rider walking in with a $6,000 or $8,000 budget shouldn't feel like they're wasting anyone's time or theirs. They might not be a $30,000 bike today, but if you treat them right now, they might become a lifetime customer. But if you ignore them now, they'll go somewhere else. I know I would. What should Harley and Indian do to fix this? Well, I say, number one, build real entry-level motorcycles, not fake ones, not cheap-looking bikes, not bikes that feel like a spreadsheet made them, but real motorcycles, that real brand identity, real reasons to care. And for Harley, they need simple, approachable, lower priced, still feels like a Harley, still has that character, it's customizable, affordable for new riders, and doesn't feel like a downgrade just because it's smaller. And for Indian, smaller or more affordable scout style options, or a basic cruiser below the current price jump. Indian styling, that approachable weight, that lighter feel, give them a clear path into the brand, something that says, start here, grow with us. Affordable cannot mean soullessness. If Harley builds a cheap bike that doesn't feel like a Harley, people are going to reject it. If Indian builds a cheap bike that doesn't feel like an Indian, people are going to reject it. New riders don't want fake versions of these brands. They want obtainable versions of these brands. Number two, I would say make ownership less intimidating. New riders aren't only thinking about the bike; they're thinking about the helmet. They're thinking about jacket, gloves, their boots, the insurance for the bike, the cost for the registration, how much it's going to cost for that first service, buying new tires for the bike, the maintenance of keeping up the bike, storage if they don't have a place to keep the bike, that financing that they're, how much what it's going to cost them to finance it. All that adds up fast, and giving them a clearer path, that makes bikes, bike plus basic gear package giving them a cleaner path with, bike plus basic gear package, the training discount, first services included, beginner maintenance night, reasonable financing, used bike support, a trade-up path. And the used bike part is huge. A lot of young riders are not buying new. They're buying used instead of acting like used buyers don't matter. Hell, man, bring them into the dealership, inspect their used bikes, help them learn maintenance, invite them to rides, make them feel welcome. Today's used Sportster rider could be tomorrow's Road Glide buyer. Today's used Scout rider could be tomorrow's Challenger or Pursuit buyer. But only if the brand keeps them close. So will Harley and Indian catch on? I think they must. Harley can't rely forever on expensive bikes and aging customer base. That nostalgia alone. Indian can't grow long term if the beginner path feels too expensive. The lineup feels too limited. For new riders, the first step is still too big. Both brands need younger riders. They need those first-time buyers. They need riders not already deep into cruiser culture. They need to stop thinking only about premium bikes. They need to think about the rider pipeline. That entry-level motorcycles aren't just cheap products. They're the beginning of the relationship. Sell someone their first bike. Help them learn. Help them feel confident. Invite them into the community. Support them when they're new. Give them a reason to stay. That's how you build loyalty, guys. Not corporate slogans, not lifestyle marketing. That's shit from the past. All the past, man. Times have changed, and these companies need to change with the times. They need a real path into the brand. So, are younger riders abandoning Harley and Indian? Some probably are, but I think the biggest issue is I think a lot of younger riders were never given a realistic way in. They still like the brands, they still like the sound, they still like the look, they still like the history of it, they still like the idea of owning one someday, but liking something and being able to afford it, guys, that's two different things. If Harley and Indian want to stay competitive, then they can't only sell dream bikes. They must sell first bikes, and first bikes is what creates memories. Memories will create loyalty, and loyalty keeps a brand alive. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you guys. Are Harley and Indian pricing out younger riders? Are new riders just choosing smarter starter bikes? If you were running either brand, what affordable bike would you build? Do me a favor, guys. Drop your thoughts below. I think this is one of the biggest issues facing the cruiser market right now.